What's up everybody, Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video, and in this video we're going to be breaking down how you can go pro in Valorant, and I'm going to be giving you no BS, giving you the raw facts and things that you can do to give yourself the best shot at achieving this prestigious goal. We'll go to the Game League website and the links down below for in-depth advanced VODs, tips and tricks, and everything you possibly need to climb to the upper ranks of Valorant. But enough of all that, let's waste no more time and jump right into it. Now, the idea of being a professional esports player is a goal that many people around the entire world have, and for a lot of people it's the dream job. You get to play as the best of the best, make good money, and live the life of a streamer, gamer, and for many it's the one goal that they secretly have in the back of their mind. Now, while climbing all the way up from where you are now to being a professional Valorant player can feel impossible, let's break down what you could actually do step by step if it was something that you were truly devoted to and you were willing to put in the work to make your dreams a reality. Now, that being said, I'm getting a little bit too far ahead of myself. The first question that we actually have to answer is it even possible to go pro? Because a lot of people wonder if that's something that can even happen. I mean, there are a lot of pros that already exist and you have to climb all the way to where they are and then surpass them. Is it even possible to go pro, or is it too late? Did I already miss my chance? Well, let's look at who are the pros now and let's think about how they got there. So if you think about someone like Hiko or Sinatra or whatever, a lot of these pros were extremely good at former games, or they were already pro at a very similar game. Like they were pro at Counter-Strike, or they were very good or top tier at a previous game like Sinatra with Overwatch. Now, if you look at a lot of the pros now, you might think that there is no room for any other type of person to go pro, that only the people that were already top tier before can be top tier now. But here's the thing that you need to understand. The top pros of many games will get replaced or overcome by new blood. And if you don't believe me, look no further than a game like Fortnite. Now, I know none of us here play Fortnite because it's a trash game, but the thing that you need to understand about that game is all the top players that existed at the very beginning of that game, in the very beginning of that pro scene, almost all of them have been completely replaced by new blood multiple times, and the skill level of the players that exist now are so much higher than the people that existed in the past. Now, the reason that's important is that most likely Valorant is gonna go the same way, where in the next couple of years, you're gonna start to see many new faces, even teams of people that have players that no one has ever heard about. And the reason that a lot of times established pros and former high skill players are chosen and put on a Valorant team is because they have the credentials and the history, while no one else has that history yet, but it's being formed right now. And the next thing that you need to understand is that as new players, you can learn from the past, or you can learn from the top tier. For example, blazing a new path and coming up with a very experimental style, play style, or gameplay identity is something that can be incredibly difficult if you have no one to model your skills off of. But being able to analyze top tier pros, learn from them, and adapt on top of what they already have done is not only something that you could do in video games, but it's something that scientists do. It's something that pretty much every single scholar does. It is just how the world works, where the new generation builds on the old generation and finds ways to improve past that. Now, there are a lot of reasons why a lot of these players will get replaced by new blood. One of the big reasons is they get complacent. They're already at the top, they have successful streams or whatever, and they get very complacent and they don't have the desire to grind anymore. And as a person who wants to grind and wants to get to that level, you will automatically have a much stronger desire than them, and that means you're gonna work harder. And then the last up is they get old and retire. They, you know, get families or whatever the case may be. Part of complacency, but something that's important to understand. Now, the last thing that we have to touch on here is that Valorant is gonna be a game that lasts many years. 5+. Valorant will be around for a long time at the very minimum, and could last even longer than that. 5 years is how long Riot has said that they're gonna be consistently putting in updates guaranteed. So we know that 5 years is the minimum that Valorant will last as an esport, and this means that there is no window that you have passed up. And to go back to the initial question, is it possible to go pro? 100% it is possible to go pro. Now, I'm not trying to paint an unrealistic picture here. I'm gonna get to that in a second, but the next question we have to answer is, what would you individually have to do if you wanted to go pro? Now, the first thing is something that's way easier said than done, and it's be the best of the best. A lot of times you need to be climbing yourself all the way up to the highest rank possible, which would be Radiant. But essentially what you are really trying to do is slowly but surely remove any flaws or weakness in your game. Pro players are ever adapting and ever improving, making sure that they have the least amount of mistakes possible while maxing out every single possible stat in game sense, positioning, and mechanics. And the only way to make this a reality is by treating Valorant way more similar to something like a job rather than a pastime. Because let's talk about how many hours that pro players actually play the game. Most of the time, they are scrimming 5 days a week minimum for 3 to 5 hours at times, and they are consistently grinding ranked as well. Plus, they are putting time into VOD reviews that they are analyzing their own mistakes, and they are applying that immediately to the games that they have recorded that they just previously played. Now, this is really par for the course as something you would imagine for regular sports or competing at a high level. It's the same way in video games where if you want to perform the best, you have to treat your practice and performance and improvement just like you would be if it was your legitimate job. Now, that being said, we're talking about tons and tons of hours a week here. I'm talking 50+ hours a week, hard grinding Valorant with the dedication and intent to improve. But we have to answer the next question, which is who can actually go pro? And it's going to depend on a number of different things. One of the big ones is how many hours can you actually devote to gaming? Not everyone can put in enough commitment to make this dream a reality. If you're someone with a large amount of commitment and you do not have the time to grind a crazy amount of hours, there's no possible way that you can hope to climb and surpass people that are already at the top level but grind double or triple the amount of hours that you are putting in the game. So then on top of this, another big question that people will ask is, what else do I need to do to give myself the best shot at going pro? Because it can't just be that easy. I just, get good at the game and I climb to high rank. And no, it's not that easy. So let's talk about some of the other things that once you put in that time and effort and that devotion and start to climb to those upper ranks, what do you need to do to make the next step from just being a decently good player to an actual pro player? Because that is a gap that is actually larger than the initial gap from being like a, I don't know, silver player to a high ranked player. This gap is actually much harder to cross. And the first thing that you need to do is once you get to a Mortal Plus, you need to start scrimming. This is something that is very important. Scrim experience and practicing scrimming in general is just something that is very good for developing yourself as a player. It's extremely important to find your specialty, like who you main and how you play, and practice concise and clear comms. And another thing that is very important for you to understand as you start to scrim, and honestly just playing ranked in general, every interaction with another person is a window to your future. This is true for gaming as it's true in real life. Toxic players can often get barred from future orgs altogether because if you just have one bad interaction with someone who eventually gets in connection with an org, becomes a player, a manager, a coach, or whatever, that stain on your character and you as a person can follow you around forever. And as usual, any competitive integrity things are unacceptable. The things that would get you banned in chat or the things that will get you banned in game, those are all things that you should typically not do if you want to become a pro, aka a professional. So yeah, that's pretty obvious to say the least. Now, moving on to the second thing though, and this is really important, and this is have positive interactions with top level players on ladder. This is going back to what I talked about before, but just being generally friendly and kind to everyone. Playing well always, whereas in other games, people have been plucked straight from ladder based on just how well they're playing with and around other top players. You see them on stream, or, maybe someone that is on like a tier 2 team, they have you on their team and you play extremely well. All it takes is for them to mention one thing to their org to get you that tryout that you need to actually turn just you being a good player into an opportunity to be on a legitimate team. And then the last thing is be likable, which I don't really know how to tell you how to be likable, but the fact of the matter is if you are a more likable person, you have a higher chance of just getting these type of opportunities. So if you generally have a really dislikable personality, I don't know what to tell you, but maybe work on it a little bit. I don't know. Now, the third thing that you need to understand about trying to grind to become a professional is you need to take care of your body. Your reflexes are very, very important. Making sure that you are sleeping well, hydrating, all that good stuff. And the reason I say all this is just like how professional, regular athletes hone their bodies so that they can perform at a top level. Gaming should be the same way if you're actually taking it seriously. This is kind of moving away from gaming solely for fun and practicing just how top level people would practice, because that's how you'll get those top level results. Now, the last thing that you can do, and this is something that I really suggest, even if it's a little bit controversial, but it's just straight up honest, and it's what I call get that clout. But really what I mean is getting name recognition in any way you can further develop your opportunities later on. A perfect example of this is someone like Governor, who's not only an amazing player, but has an established YouTube channel, and that's something that you can do if you get your name into the mouths of people. People know you. You have your own platform. You have your own fans. That is the way that you can actually get yourself those opportunities using that, and it's just one way to actually develop yourself in the eyes of the public sphere and get you those pro opportunities, like I said. As a perfect example of this, in Overwatch, many people got opportunities straight from large platforms, whether that be coaches that got signed to teams, or whether that be players that got signed directly onto teams based on just how large their platform was. Yes, of course, they were good players or good coaches, but that's not the main reason why they got that opportunity in the first place. Essentially, also, as you grow your own brand, you can become marketable for a team, and they would more likely rather have you on that team. Like, having your name recognition alone is good for the actual org that is going to sign you. So if you are climbing or already at that top rank and you really desperately want to break through into the actual pro sphere, getting on that social media grind, getting on that YouTube grind, even that TikTok grind, I don't care what you have to do, but making sure that your name is getting out there, that is very important. Because here's a big takeaway. It's a lesson, just plain and simple. Being good is actually not enough to get you a job, which is sad, but it is actually 100% true. Now, I know I talked about some optimistic and some pessimistic things, but let's move on to the hard truth that you need to understand about becoming a pro player. Here's the first thing, and this one's gonna be a little bit brutal. I might get some flack for this in the comments, but some people will have an extremely low propensity to become a pro player automatically. One of the big marks of becoming a pro player in general is just your ability to learn incredibly quickly and adapt, and some people don't know how to learn incredibly quickly or adapt. Now, I'm not saying that you can't overcome that. You can learn how to learn, but it's up to you to mentally push yourself to adapt on the fly, and for some people, they're gonna naturally be good at this, and other people are gonna have to work extremely hard to make this part of your default settings. Now, another part of this is talent, and if a talented person works incredibly hard, you have to work 2 to 3 times as hard as them to overcome what they naturally have, and in some cases you might not be able to overcome that, but that doesn't mean you won't be able to become pro. It just means that there are some amount of people that have a much better shot at it than you do, especially if you're not willing to work many times harder than they are. Now, the next hard truth that I really have to say, and it's kind of brutal to say, but it's the truth, some people will never get this opportunity. You could have poor life conditions where maybe you have a job as a kid and you just don't have the time to do this, or maybe you just don't have internet, a good computer, whatever the case may be, because of your life conditions, or you do not have enough time to game because you just got other priorities. On top of this, your age really does matter, and it matters for other reasons, like, hey, I have to provide food on the table, I have to pay the bills, I'm 30 freaking years old and I don't have that good of a job, I could never chase this dream. And this moves on to the third hard truth that you really need to understand, and this one's actually really brutal, but it's true. You could be extremely good and never become pro. There is a certain amount of RNG that you can simply not control. That being said, just like with everything, you could put yourself in a higher percentage shot to make your dreams come true, but there are never any guarantees. Now, the last thing that you need to understand in this regard is that there will be more chances in the future. Maybe Valorant will last 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, who knows? But maybe you fear climbing to the top, but you never get there fast enough and you never get a chance to actually become a pro player. But check out some of the top pros or top players that exist right now. You know, players like TenZ, who's not a pro player anymore, but he's a top player, or players like Wardell. These players were never top tier at CSGO. They were good, but they were never top tier, but they found a way to cement themselves now, and just like that, maybe for a game that comes in the future, you will be able to use all the skills that you learned here. So even if you miss out on your opportunity, that doesn't mean that your skills are going to be worthless. Now, that being said, in a more serious note, I need to give you a final takeaway about this entire video, and kind of a resounding remark for those of you who truly want to go pro, or who have maybe even just thought about it a little bit. The first thing that you need to understand is that being a pro is in high demand. It's actually one of the highest demands possible, so as such, it is highly competitive, which means everyone wants it, and in order to be the best, you gotta be better than the sea of other people that want it. Now, the second thing is, you will have to work your ass off. And even then, it's only improving your RNG, your random number generator. It doesn't ever guarantee that you'll go pro, no matter how hard you work and no matter how good you become. There is no guarantees, but like I said, you are improving your shot at that goal. If you don't even try, then you have no percentage at all. Now, the third thing that you need to understand is that some people are going to be automatically set up for failure because of their life conditions slash, I guess you would call privilege, just their basic game state or their basic life state. Some people just will never have the opportunity. But the final thing that you need to understand, and the most important thing I could say about this entire video, is that I think that there is value in giving your all to a dream, even if you fall short. Now, you might not agree with me, but this is 100% how I feel, and I really want to hear your insight and comments and opinions about all this in the comments down below. But go to the Game Leap website in the links down below if you need in-depth advanced guides over everything you could possibly need to climb the ranked ladder, get yourself set up all the way to those higher ranks, Diamond, Immortal, and maybe even start your climbing or dabbling in the competitive sphere with scrimming. Do yourself a favor, go check it out in the links down below. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's a little bit different than my normal videos, but I wanted to make sure to lay out things that you can do to actually give yourself a better shot at becoming a pro without pushing any narrative that it's easy or that you could do it with just a magical golden ticket, which is not true at all. I just wanted to give you the raw facts while being helpful, but being honest with each and every one of you. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash that like and subscribe if you did. And that's all I got for you today. Thanks so much for coming by. I'm Coach Mills, and of course, until next time.